Hello and welcome to REVA's Electrifying News February edition. With me, as always, my two co-hosts. We have Mr. Ian Graham joining us from parts south of us. How you doing today, Ian?
I'm doing very well and enjoying paradise.
Very good, very
Yeah.
good. Also with us, a little bit north of Paradise, is Mr. Eric Stevens joining us. How are you today, Eric?
I'm doing great and envious of Ian enjoying paradise. So,
We have a new methodology of barbecuing down here. Let's put it that way.
Very good, very good. So, Ian, go ahead and let's get the electrifying news on the roll.
Okay, there we go. All right. First off, in our electrifying news, this is some amazing stuff to hear. Over or nearly 2,000 DC fast charging ports were added last year. And I can see that this is just going to keep growing and expanding, especially with what Prime Minister Carney is looking to do.
Exactly. There's been a still some more push on getting more and more EV chargers out there. Of course, the focus has been on DC fast for a while, and Canada in 2025 was able to raise the amount of EV chargers, DC fast chargers, by just over 28% in a year. So that puts us at about 8,800 DC fast chargers in Canada alone. And this past year, 2025, we added almost 2,000 of them to the network. These are all the networks, Tesla and all the others. Tesla does have the largest network at this time and percentage, but the others are starting to catch up. We've got some other entries that have added to the mix, and this is again it's great news. We always like to see more chargers, as long as they're strategically placed and they operate all the time. They're low maintenance, hopefully, that they're up and running because that is definitely the thing that has to happen is that these have to be reliable charge stations that work when people need them, and that is basically all the time. So what's great is this report also indicates that these fast chargers are being utilized. They're starting to collect data on how much they're being used, and it is looking like they're getting more use. So the number of chargers at a individual site has started to expand. So the average number of chargers has gone up this past year. So that's good news as well. And nothing worse than coming to a site, seeing one charger, and it's already being occupied. So having four, five, six, eight chargers are certainly a much better scenario for people that are looking for a charge and have to wait less. So my hats is off to this, and hopefully in 2026 we seen another jump as well. So yeah, great news.
yeah.
The Go for it, Eric.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, yeah, this is fantastic. I mean, a lot of these, we've seen this for a long time, and there's been a lot of incentives and a lot of infrastructure. Some of these projects are longer lead times, to plan out, put in a charging infrastructure to build it and actually get the site permitted and approved. That project lead time sometimes for many of these things are a couple of years, sometimes even a bit more. So we're seeing the remnants of that. A lot of the planning and a lot of the infrastructure that has been planned over the last couple of years is now starting to come to fruition now and is starting to roll out and actually being deployed. So it's good to see that these are coming out. These are good. I guess a while ago we've seen this coming. We've seen the infrastructure growing rapidly and stuff like that, and now it's being followed through with. So it's good to see that growth.
hmm The big part about this with the growth aspect that I really like to see is the fact that it is Canada, who, we're not a small country by any means. And, I'm sure a lot of this is going along some major highways and everything else. But I'm sure from that point, we're going to see expansion into other areas, say Northern Ontario. That area is a spot that's always, some people are kind of questioning what's going to happen that way. But no, the fact that you're talking about Canada, you're not talking about a country, say like Germany, which is, fits in the size of Southern Ontario. This is really good to see that this is happening, and that it's being taken serious as well. And the other big thing, of course, is that the usage, even though EV sales last year didn't quite go up as much as we thought it might, but the fact that it's being utilized that much more is a great sign as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I can say even in my new role for where I work, we're actually partnering with some companies like some organizations like Hydro-Quebec on microgrids and how to better deploy EV charging and DC fast charging into more remote communities. So so people are looking into these solutions and trying to figure out how do we bring these applications and bring solutions to get this infrastructure to the areas of Canada where it's a little more challenging.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's going to be good expansions. All right. This is an interesting. I had to do a double take on the $100 when I saw that there.
Yeah. So what's happening here is, as many people might know in the news, some of the U.S. auto manufacturers are taking a pause and restructuring some of their EV plans a little bit, especially Stellantis. Stellantis had to bite a big bullet. Some of their plug-in hybrids, like the Pacifica hybrid and stuff like that, and the entire powertrain system is used in multiple vehicles. They're discontinuing that system right now. I think they're doing that for a few reasons. And then vehicles like the EV Charger that's also produced in Windsor hasn't been, has not met the sales expectations Stellantis had hoped. Because of that, the battery plant in Windsor was kind of sitting underutilized. And what they're finding though is Stellantis has sold their stake solely to LG Energy. Now LG Energy is now more free to market these batteries to other markets for other applications. And one of the big ones that is coming up and growing very quickly is energy storage systems and battery storage systems. And so a lot of the batteries that are being produced now in Windsor are going for these grid-tied storage systems as well too. And I think in the interim, that's going to be a great solution until, the larger automotive market to the south of us gets a little bit of realism dealt back to it. So I think this is a good move to at least maintain the sustainability of this project and keep things moving and keep jobs in Canada for this project.
Yeah, I had known that Stellantis had owned about half of this project, and since it was up and running, and we heard about the issues that Stellantis was having with a huge write-down that they were forced to take recently, I was kind of cringing and hoping that the battery factory in Windsor was not going to be affected. And I think this is the best scenario that could have happened is that Stellantis sold its 49% ownership stake to take it off the books, to take that write down all at once. And the bonus was that LG Energy, which of course is very familiar with the batteries and battery packs, took that other 49%, added to their 51%. Now they own it completely. So as Eric mentioned, they can now look for other customers outside of Stellantis, and they also have the ability, as mentioned, where they can use it for grid storage and open up a new possibilities for them to sell these batteries in a different configurations that will allow them to move them more quickly. So I hope they can find a lot of customers in multiple different arenas, and hopefully this battery plant can keep producing.
Yeah, I think the big thing is the grid storage aspect of things is becoming a lot more of a business model that we're going to see in the future. And I mean, it's not just happening in Canada. I'm seeing it happening in Australia. Lots of grid storage being touted there. So I can see for Canada that this will actually be, I think, will be a good business to get into, especially considering how our winter has been, or how your guys' winter has been the last few months, because there is that much more energy being used with heat pumps, I think. We've had that much more in cold temperatures and snow and everything else. So this type of an instant sort of battery backup for the grid is, I think, is going to make a big difference for this, and I think there is going to be a good customer base for this as well. As for Stellantis, you know what? If the companies know what they want to get into, and I think they got into this and maybe realized that this maybe not quite what they wanted to get into, or it's just not, like you say, not working out quite the same way. And that's okay. Move on to some other things, and then I think LG is a good company to take over something like this. I think they've got a lot of expertise in this area, so I think it's going to be a win-win for both.
Yeah, and the Koreans are looking to make some larger investments to sway the Canadian government in other ways as well too. So
Yes, yes, for sure. All right. So I've been watching kind of interesting with I guess you could say somewhat our politics. The EV sales in Europe are growing quite a bit, and the we're seeing more of the gas car sales are going down. And of course, you bring up Norway, and that's been like a model of what we're kind of expecting on something like this. But the new car market in general has also shrunk. So there are four largest new car markets: France, Germany, two of those right there. France saw an increased battery electric sales by 52%. Germany's up 23.8. Those are not small numbers. But then you turn around and you get Belgium, where the sales were down 11%, and Netherlands, actually, I was surprised at Netherlands being down with 35% on this as well. And of course, the other big thing, and I'm seeing this actually here in Mexico as well. BYD, my God, that company is just selling, in Mexico here, the BYD Dolphin, which is a smaller car, and then the BYD Shark, which is the plug-in hybrid that they have. I see those all the time now. And so they're definitely doing well in this area, but also in Europe. Of course, they've now surpassed Tesla. And Tesla is struggling, of course, with European sales due to different reasons. And it's interesting to see, though, that Europe as a whole, though, EV sales are they're just going up. And we're talking about Canada expanding the charging network. Europe, there's a charging network that's working really well.
mhm. Yeah, it's it'd be interesting to see how some of these individual markets, how did incentive programs change or anything like that that
Mhm.
accounted for some of those sales fluctuations. But I think as have said all along, EV sales overall are still growing. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we've had some major market shifts here in Canada when we lost EV incentives, and in the United States as well too. Obviously, for a large number of reasons, there's been some pressure put on electric vehicle sales there. So it's easy to see the doom and gloom in things from our perspective here in Ontario. But overall globally, EV sales are going up, and even we saw here in Canada, we did a previous story on this, where yes, when the incentive went away, there was a big decline in sales, but then quarter after quarter, they still kept going up after that. So so EV sales are still growing, and and I think as we all know, there is I call the inevitable march. There's some shifting fluctuations and incentives and things like that, and some geopolitical stuff that's going on. But yeah, the reality is, the writing's on the wall that this is eventually going to be the best way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly a case where Europe has led the way for some time over North America, and as we've watched the March of Norway and a number of other European countries, we knew that EVs were just grabbing more and more market share, and that the days of the ice motor were limited. And now at this point, you can see that they're not going to be around forever. It's they are continually going down, and EV share market share just continues to go up. And I think Canada is going to follow that path as well. It's just that we're going to take a little bit longer because we didn't start as early. As Eric mentioned, there are different incentives and ones that are in place, ones that have been taken away, which kind of play with the market a little bit, but which we just saw recently in Canada. I think the world has decided that EV is the way to go, and I think at this point we're just starting to follow that along here in North America and Canada specifically, and we're just going to be following the Europeans and what they've done, and our percentages will go up as well.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, let's see what happens with the future. All right. This is an article that I was reading about yesterday a little bit, and some of the, posted on some of the EV groups and the commentary, and not sure this is a great move, to be very honest.
Yeah, this is Nova Scotia, and what they've decided to do is they're going to be placing a levy of sorts on EV ownership. And what they're doing is they're saying that EV drivers will pay every 2 years $500 for their licensing of their vehicle. Hybrid users will be paying an additional 250 for every 2 years. So I don't know why they did 2 years. Maybe that's how their cycle goes. But so EV drivers per year will be paying $250, and a hybrid owner will be paying $125 in Nova Scotia. What Nova Scotia is saying is that this is the percentage of the road tax that they want people to pay for. If people have EVs or hybrids, they're using up less gasoline, therefore they're not paying those pennies at the pump that are added to the liter cost. And this is a way of recouping that. It's questionable as to whether the numbers are right or not. Um, I certainly would, and I don't have access to all the numbers, but I guess my thought would be if you're looking at a fuel efficient ICE motor and they drive the average that most Canadians drive, which is, somewhere about, let's say, 12,000 to 14,000 kilometers, whatever that number is, times that by what that car actually burns in fuel. And I think that an EV driver should not be paying anything above that.
Mhm.
I think that yes, we do have to pay for the road. If the taxes being collected on the gasoline tax actually go to servicing the road, then we should participate in that as well. But we should participate it at a lower level because we've invested in a technology that would be far more fuel efficient than the most fuel efficient ICE vehicle out there, but we do have to pay our share. So again, these numbers are something that Nova Scotia came up with. I'm not sure if they're actually correct when it comes right down to the calculations, but I'd be interested to see what our audience thinks of this, and what if Ontario were to implement something like this? Would you feel comfortable in paying 250 a year or 125 a year for a hybrid? I'd be interested to hear what our members think of this.
Yeah, and I actually did quite a quick back of the napkin when I saw this story. I did a quick back of the napkin calculation, and a vehicle that's driving is probably a gasoline car, a standard mid-sized crossover vehicle, is probably going to be using between 150 to $200 a year in a gas taxes is what they're going to be paying. So, I mean, this seems punitive to me personally. This seems punitive. Um, And the other side of this is how they're also kind of like phasing this in fairly quickly as well too. I mean, I agree, with cars transitioning, maybe there needs to be some way to recoup those additional costs, maybe more fair way to do that. We've debated this on the show a few times as well too. For should they be a mileage based or some other type of mechanism out there to charge people versus a fuel tax? Um, but at the same time, if they were going to do something like this, I agree it shouldn't be more than what a gas vehicle is paying. And at the same time, it should be possibly phased in as well too over some period of time because we're still trying to incentivize people to drive electric. And in Nova Scotia right now, they're actually one of the laggards nationally for EV adoption. They have a much lower EV adoption rate than the rest of Canada. So right now, this has a fairly negligible effect on the finances of the government of Nova Scotia at this point. So they have a new government in Nova Scotia, and it seems like they have uh, uh, their approach towards EVs is a little bit negative, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. I think the one thing I keep, sort of beating my drum and that bothers me is, again, comes back to healthcare. Every EV you take off the road is helping with healthcare. And I've been seeing more and more studies showing, that this is a huge impact on air quality and everything else. So, yes, we need to maintain the roads and everything else. But at the same time, you keep those gas cars out there and it just keeps impacting our healthcare. And as taxpayers, we're paying for that as well. I also find it interesting, like Nova Scotia is still very much coal powered, as far as I understand, which kind of blows my mind considering the amount that, we're going to talk about this in a sec too, but the wind power use that they could be doing and or other methods that they could be doing to get their power. And there's something about this whole, like you said, it de-incentivize people from getting an electric vehicle. Like, oh, so yeah, I'm saving money, but now you're charging me this. And, might only be $250 a year, but that's still a bit ridiculous on the whole thing. And also, as I put in the one point, the revenue that they might get from this is not going to do much for the actual roads themselves. It's very tiny. So it's questionable. Yeah. All right. So this is a really cool article. And when I was reading through this, that's, of course, you get the arguments about the extraction of lithium and all the water that is needed for this extraction and how it's impacting local communities. And then you read what this company is doing. And of course, it's, as far as I can tell, is in the lab right now, but they're having some very good results from it. So this looks very, a good opportunity.
Yeah, so this is an interesting technology and a process. So what they found is that in a lot of locations, especially in Alberta, when you drill down and you get the groundwater, a lot of that natural groundwater actually has a brine solution that's very rich in lithium. Now, that's very common in a lot of markets. You see this in Chile, you see this in Australia, and places like that. But the advantages they have is they'll pump the water out, they put it into these big ponds, and they just let the sun and the weather evaporate it. The problem is Alberta is not so conducive of that. Half the year, Alberta is brutally cold, and it's not conducive to having evaporation ponds for that. So you have to find other means to potentially do that. And what they found is they have this new DLE process that they're calling it. That basically it's a catalyst that they can do to separate the lithium from the water, basically. And they found it to be very effective. And what's really cool about this as well too is that it involves drilling and pumping fluids and stuff like that, which is a high level of expertise they already have in Alberta as well too, because of the oil and gas industry. And in many cases, some of these sections are already partially or somewhat drilled as well. So much of the infrastructure and much of the know-how to do this is already in Alberta. And, kind of like the stories I've talked about in the past about geothermal in that region as well. Now you've also got this potential here for lithium extraction as well too, and reutilizing some of that skill set. So if a lot of people in the oil and gas industry are afraid of, how, new energy might impact some of these jobs and some of these things, there's alternatives here, and there's ways to use that expertise for a future sustainable technologies.
Yeah, what I'd like to see here is that, like any resource that we're using, as more of it is required and more of it is sought for, companies start getting innovative with the ideas because they're now saying that, oh, this is useful if we can speed this process, if we can make it more efficient, we can actually be able to sell more or make a higher profit or whatever. This is pushing innovation. And right here is you're seeing another aspect of it as people are realizing that lithium and how it's mined can lead to a great bottom line for the company. So again, this is us just innovating in real time, and it's great to see, and I hope to see more of it.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's the key term as well is that, somebody will look at this and then, hey, have you tried this idea? Or, and I think that's the big part of all of this stuff is really going to help. It's interesting. In January, I was talking with a friend who, he's here in Mexico, but he lives in Calgary otherwise. And while we're getting these -20 temperatures, Calgary was like 5 degrees. So this year was a totally different thing. So who knows? Maybe this would have worked a little bit easier with this in winter that we had. But I also think too is that as they go along, there's going to be more investment as they start proving that this technology can work, and there's going to be more investment to make it better as well. And we all know, like, this is the direction really everything is going, not just electric vehicles, but of course the battery backup, and etc. So this is a great thing to see. I'm looking at it too as like, with South America, the people down there, one of the biggest complaints was the groundwater. What do we do with that now? Like, it's contaminated, etc. So this, could potentially be something to help solve that issue as well. All right. So this article came up yesterday, and UK renewables will enjoy a record year in 2025, but gas power still rises. And I will explain just quickly a little bit about that part of it. But UK is pretty much being powered by wind power, which, the renewables are showing 47%. The majority of that, of course, is wind power with a bit of solar. And then gas is 28%, nuclear 11%, and then you have, of course, your net imports as well. The one thing that I find interesting, and I'm trying to remember what if it was Clean Air Ontario, but there was a organization that had done a study quite a number of years ago showing that Ontario could literally be powered completely by wind power if you put the turbines in the middle of Lake Ontario, and I think Lake Erie. And because it's, higher elevation at that aspect, you wouldn't necessarily see it from the shoreline, but the winds there were so good. And of course, when the study was done, the technology's only improved with this aspect. And, I kind of wish Ontario would go back to looking at this, because UK has done a lot with the wind aspect of things. I've been watching that for the last year, seeing that happening. Now, of course, UK also, they closed the last coal plant in September last year. And part of the reason of the gas power rising is because of the coal plant closing. They kind of offset it with the gas aspect. So does it mean that, things are, the same or getting worse? No, not really. It's just one's being offset with another. And gas power, of course, I think is going to be a lot more efficient than coal power as well. And nuclear power, this is also, again, back to Ontario. Nuclear power at its lowest level in half a century in the UK. And I'm curious with Ontario, if we shifted, to more wind turbines, in the Great Lakes, as been shown with the studies, how much nuclear would we actually really be needing to worry about on that aspect? One last quick point too. In the article, it mentions that the demand for electricity keeps going down in the UK, which is interesting because you think with electric vehicles and heat pumps, and of course, all three of us have heard these arguments about, well, the demand for electricity, and even to that point, Mark Carney is bringing this up as well, the demand for electricity in Canada, then the need for it. But the aspect I think a lot of people forget is your 100-watt light bulb has been replaced by a 7-watt light bulb LED. The heat pumps are still way more efficient in general with when they operate. So the demand aspect, I could see Canada maybe hitting a peak, and then slowly that demand comes down as people start switching over to heat pumps. I mean, we're pretty much all doing LEDs anyways. So, but anyways, I think it's great to see the UK is. I've been watching them for a good year or so with the wind power and their installs, and this is great to see.
Yeah, I saw an article that might be closely related, and you touched upon it a little bit as well too. There's a CBC article that I read just a couple days ago about where Trump sees big ugly windmills, Canada sees opportunity.
Yes, I see that.
It talks about the wind farms that were going up off the coast of the U.S. and in Rhode Island, and many of these projects very near complete. But now the Danish company Ørsted is not planning any more future investment for the near future into the U.S. And there's a good chance that a lot of that expertise might move north into Canada. And there was actually an interview with the premier of Nova Scotia at the time saying that, hey, the interest in wind power is very high in Nova Scotia. So this could be a big deal to do that. And I know a while back there was even a project proposed. They called it the Atlantic Loop. And I know they're talking about reviving that as potentially one of the national projects that the federal government has been talking about, is interconnecting Atlantic Canada with a more integrated power system right now, because Newfoundland and Labrador, especially Labrador, produces huge amounts of hydroelectric power as well. And right now that power is funneled through Quebec to go to the US. But hey, why can't we interconnect Atlantic Canada, get the island of Newfoundland off of fossil fuels power generation, reduce the fossil fuel power generation in Nova Scotia and the rest of the Atlantic provinces? So I think that's also a fantastic project as well. And I think we should be considering those kind of options today.
Yeah, I think connecting Canada to all its provinces and regions is something that we should expedite. That's something that we should be looking at, being able to share energy between provinces. We've relied on the US for an awful long time, and we've seen the downfall of that recently. So being able to connect the networks interprovincially, I think would be a great way to extend what can be done with the energy, and that would be something that I think all Canadians can get behind after seeing what's been happening over the past year.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. All right. Well, there is our podcast for tonight, and lots of some really cool articles, and dare I say, lots of hope on things as well.
So Ian, you just led. For people that don't know, you're in Mexico, and you're safe and sound. Is that
I am
correct?
safe. Yes, I am
Okay.
safe and sound. And you know, I've been coming here since 1991. I've been coming to Mexico since 1979. And was I feeling nervous and everything? Yeah. I mean, this is an area that is known as number 2 for retirees next to Portugal, and also known as a neutral zone. So it was a little, to see a little unnerving to see the black smoke in different areas, because I have a great view from the roof of 360 degrees. And even in my small town of La Cruz, there was a car blockade on both ends of the town. But once we got through the night, and it was eerie quiet, I'll tell you, quiet as I've ever heard, and like no traffic, nothing. But we went out the next day. We kind of played it by ear and looked at what was happening and went and got groceries. And everybody was starting to get out. Went out for tacos that night. We're going out for tacos tonight. Life is going on. And, I have to say, there's a lot of media, including with CBC, we watched, they started off and like, oh, it's a war zone. No, it's not. It's not even close to being a war zone here. There are not dead people all around here. It's burned cars. The cartel's making a statement because their main guy is out. And, you know, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot with the tourism because they're part of the tourism
Yeah.
as well. But that being said, you know what? Life goes on, and we do shout outs. My shout out is to the Mexican people who are warm and genuine and just awesome. Everyone's checking in on everyone. We're all making sure we're good.
Very good. Eric, a quick any shout outs for you?
Uh, no shout outs for me this time, Mark.
Very good. Well, we thank everyone for watching. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video, press the subscribe button, and you'll be notified if you ring the bell next time we put a video out there. Put in the comments what you like, what you'd like to talk about, and we will see you again next month. Thanks so much.